Deadlock just got a batch of changes for all of the heroes that got added in the major update, except Apollo, of course, because he just came out. And these include some nerfs for Celeste, finally, oh my gosh, some big changes for Rem's little helpers, as well as some very nice buffs for Venator and Silver, and I'm going to be going over all of these changes for you in today's video. Starting off with Celeste, who now has minus 6% base bullet and melee resist, so she's easier to take down if you're playing a gun character. And they also reduced her base damage per bullet from 29 down to 25. Light Eater got some pretty big bug fixes. One thing I didn't realize was that she was actually granting the spirit lifesteal component to her teammates too, so if a teammate attacked someone under the effect of the flare, they were getting a ton of lifesteal. That has been fixed. Also, Light Eater will now properly be affected by line of sight. You could previously hit people through walls with this, and now, well, you can't. Dazzling Trick's explosion radius has been reduced by 1 meter, making it harder to hit the silence, and they also reduced the flat damage and spirit scaling component of Radiant Daggers, so just less damage on this across the board. Finally, her ultimate didn't actually get nerfed nearly as hard as I expected it to. They reduced the damage from 115 down to 105. They have not touched the spirit scaling or anything else about this ultimate for that matter. Yeah, I'm a little baffled by this. And as if that wasn't enough, they also kind of buffed it, at least when it comes to casting it. It'll cause you to glide down more slowly while channeling if you cast it in the air. Just like this. So you could kind of float. Which, I mean, that's cool. I don't mind it, but could we not have nerfed this a little bit harder? This thing is disgustingly strong. Moving on to Graves, who is getting the most tame changes this update. Her weapon got a slight tweak. It now does ever so slightly less base damage, but the attack range has been increased by 1 meter, so very nice for the quality of life. Grasping Hands has received some pretty major nerfs to just about every component. The range has gone down from 20 meters down to 14 meters. That's a pretty small wall. They also reduced the duration of the hands from 7 seconds to 5 seconds, although notably, this is not the immobilize, this is just the duration of the actual wall. But it's not all nerfs. They drastically improved the spirit scaling of the damage component from 1.3 up to 1.9. So if you do get hit by the Grasping Hands, which is less likely now, then you will take more damage, assuming Graves has a lot of spirit scaling. Jar of Dead has received a major power shift. The damage per hit has gone back up to 20, but the duration has been cut down by a third, from 15 seconds down to 10 seconds. And I do think this makes a lot of sense. We've seen an evolution of Graves' strength in the meta as people have adapted to her and figured out how to counterplay her. On release, Jar of Dead was way too strong because not enough people knew how to shoot the minions reliably and also just melee them. But now, these guys die almost instantly, and so it makes sense to buff up the damage slightly, but then in return, they don't last as long. And considering how most of the skulls don't even reach their 15-second lifetime in general, this really is just a buff at the end of the day. The only way this is a nerf is if you're using the Jar of Dead for farming, because they won't last as long, and so you won't be able to hit as many camps with them. That definitely sucks, but when fighting other players, this is a pretty nice change. Finally, her ultimate got a bit shorter, so the duration has gone down from 20 seconds to 16 seconds, and the spirit scaling has been reduced from 0.05 to 0.04, less duration across the board. But the time to summon has also been cut down by 1 second, so you get the same total ghouls over the duration. The ghouls are going to come out faster, but this won't last as long, and so it'll result in more pressure being delivered at once, but less pressure for a sustained period of time. Now, before we move on to the next hero, I just want to say that if you've been enjoying this video and you found it to be helpful so far, why not consider hitting that subscribe button? It really helps me out a ton, and it helps you stay up to date on all my latest videos, including update notices such as this one, so I'd really appreciate it. But with that being said, let's get back to the video. We're going to the sandbox now, because Rem got a lot of changes to his little helpers, especially regarding when you put the little helpers on a trooper. So they changed around a lot of the stats. stats. First of all, the resistances have been lowered from 35% to 30%, but the tier 3 brings it back up to 50%. And they also changed around the healing, so the flat healing at base has been reduced from 14 down to 10, but the spirit scaling has been improved by 1/8%. Very nice. Something that is really going to disincentivize you from spamming your little helpers on the troopers is that these troopers will now give 20% more souls to the killer. Which honestly makes a lot of sense because of how difficult these troopers are to kill. And so if you want a super trooper, you can still have the super trooper, but it's going to be a little bit weaker in the early game now, and you run the risk of feeding the enemies more souls. To compensate, however, the minions will now grant you 100% of the souls when no nearby allies are around and they kill other troopers. Previously, you only got 50% of the value. But now you can just throw your minions on the lane, walk away over to a different lane or a jungle camp or whatever, and you don't lose any net worth from it. You get 100% of the value. The last change that the little helpers got makes it much harder to steal Sinner's sacrifices from the enemies. You can still target your little helpers on the Sinner's sacrifices, but if an enemy comes around looking to pick up the Sinner's sacrifice, then the little helpers will be scared, and they'll run back to Rem. They will no longer attack the Sinner's sacrifice, which gives the enemies much more counterplay, because now if they engage with the Sinner's sacrifice, Rem will no longer be able to pick it up automatically. I think this is a great change, because being able to steal Sinner's sacrifices all you want, regardless of where you are on the map, is really freaking strong. Just look in their general direction, send a little helper to the Sinner's sacrifice, walk away, reap the benefits. And that was a crazy ability to have, so it's no surprise to me that this got nerfed. The little helpers aren't the only things that got changed about Rem this update, though. Let's take a look at his other abilities. First of all, Pillow Toss got a ton of changes. The time between charges has been reduced from 12 seconds to 10 seconds, and if you choose to buy Rapid Recharge, then that'll go down to just 7 seconds between pillows. Pretty sweet. They also shuffled around the upgrades for the Pillow Toss, so the plus 2 meters of radius that were previously on the tier 3 effect have been brought down to the tier 2 upgrade, making it much easier to get that radius online. And the tier 3 upgrade now provides you with plus 1 charge in your base kit here. 4 charges at max with Rapid Recharge. That's really beneficial for Rem's overall fighting prowess in an extended battle. And while not directly related to the Pillow Toss, it is still related to pillow fighting. His light melee does 15% more damage. Hooray! And when all is said and done and you're tuckered out from your pillow fights, it's easier now than ever to just fall asleep and take a nap. The tier 3 upgrade has been buffed from minus 55 seconds of cooldown to minus 65 seconds of cooldown. Now just a 110 second cooldown on this very powerful ultimate. Oh my goodness. So Rem ultimately received a lot of love this patch, and some good changes to offer more counterplay when he's using his little helpers. Silver received the fewest changes this update, but that doesn't mean that they aren't impactful. And for all my spirit enjoyers out there, rejoice, because she finally has some real spirit scaling. Boot Kick just got double the spirit scaling, from 1 up to 2. So you potentially now have a very powerful spirit damage component to this ability. If you boot kick somebody and you choose to have a lot of spirit power, then that follow-up shot will do big damage. That was 193 bonus damage that I just got there. Similarly, Entangling Bulla's spirit scaling has been massively improved from 1 up to 1.6. Oh man, these two abilities are hitting a lot harder now, and even if you just get spirit power from your regular old 4.8k spike and your levels, you're still looking at, well, in this case, almost hundreds of extra damage. And yeah, it just is going to make her feel a lot better to play, and it gives her some options, especially when the enemies have a lot of bullet damage reduction. That's not all though, we've still got a few more improvements to talk about for her human form. So her gun, as you can see, has 1 additional bullet from 6 up to 7, or 6-7 if you fire 1 shot just like I did. Oh god, when is that meme gonna die? Her fall off has also been improved. She now incurs fall off at 20 meters instead of 16 meters, so she gets a little bit more mid-ranged action. And her health has been increased from 725 to 800, which now makes her one of the tankiest targets in the laning phase. But don't worry, the werewolf got... it got some changes. So it's a bit easier to actually build up the werewolf now, just at all stages in the game. They improved the build-up rate, and they improved the range of Go for the Throat by half a meter from 7 up to 7.5. But they reduced the base resistances pretty substantially, from 20% down to 14%, and the tier 1 from 15% down to 14%. So now you're looking at a max of 28% resistances. That's still helpful, but definitely a lot worse. Finally, let's discuss Venator, my new favorite gun hero in Deadlock. And I actually received quite a few comments saying that, well, he actually feels a little bit weak outside of his ultimate, and personally, I was surprised to hear that, but it does seem like Valve agreed, because they gave a lot of buffs to his abilities and overall base kit, but they did nerf his ultimate. There's a ton to talk about here, so let's just get started with the general change that his health has been improved from 720 to 750. He's a little bit harder to bully on the lane now. But where things really get interesting is when we actually look at his abilities. So the Consecrating Grenade here got a buff to the tier 2. It now increases the debuff duration by 1 second, bringing the total up to 4.5 seconds of burn duration. That's really nice. It's an extra second of anti-heal and even more damage per second. But the Consecrating Grenade was already really good, so that's the only change that they did. The Gut Shot, however, it definitely needed some love. And love they hath bestowed upon it with a righteous... Sorry, I'm getting carried away. Yeah, they did a lot of stuff to this. First of all, the cooldown has been reduced from 26 seconds to 23 seconds, and they added a tooltip for the wall stun range. So now you can see that there is a 6.5 meter range at which they can be stunned into a wall. And even if you knock them farther away, well, past 6.5 meters, they won't be stunned. So that makes sense. And apparently, this was not scaling properly with ability range, so they have fixed that as well. If I go ahead and grab greater expansion, now you can see the wall stun range has been improved to 8.8 meters. And so, yeah, that makes it a lot easier to actually hit this ability. Theoretically, if you wanted to make a build that had ballistic enchantment on the shotgun, you could do that now, and it wouldn't be half bad. Furthermore, they changed the tier 2, so it now provides even more cooldown reduction from 8 seconds up to 10 seconds, bringing the total cooldown to just 13 seconds. That's wild. And instead of increasing the range by 2.5 meters, they have replaced that with 0.4 extra seconds of stun duration, bringing the total up to 1.05 seconds. That is very useful, and it is also enough time to land a heavy melee just like that without getting parried, which makes the tier 3 of Gut Shot actually viable. Previously, the stun didn't last long enough to get that heavy melee off, and you would just see a Venator player go for that blessed heavy melee and then just get stunned, and that was really lame. So now, you can much more comfortably hit them with that heavy melee. It's still pretty tight timing, but if you're already up close to the wall like that, you can see that it's very reliable. Lastly, they drastically improved the scaling of the bonus damage component. It used to have just 0.4 gun damage scaling, and that has been boosted to 0.9. Almost one-to-one scaling. Hooray! Hexline Snap Trap has also received a suite of changes to make it feel better to play around. So, they improved the tooltips of this and also made it spawn in line with the crosshair rather than in line with Venator. Previously, these were kind of coming out from the left, and it was a little weird, and it was making it harder to actually position the trap where you wanted it to, so this just feels a lot better. Furthermore, the damage scaling has been supercharged, up to 2.2 damage per spirit scaling. Venator has very few things that actually scale with spirit power, but in the case of the trap, they are some of the strongest spirit scaling abilities in the game. That is honestly very funny. The debuff duration has been increased to 6 seconds, and they also improved the cooldown, taking it down from 30 seconds to 25 seconds, but unfortunately nerfing the tier 1 from 12 seconds of cooldown reduction to 8 seconds. Still a net positive at the end of the day, but the biggest change to the trap is that the tier 3 has been been buffed from 20% increased damage up to 25% increased damage against revealed targets. That is a very strong damage boost. Oh my goodness. So this is definitely worth investing into now. But don't worry, the crossbow has also been nerfed, so let's take a look at what they've done here. To start off, they reduced the damage scaling from 1.7 down to 1.5. That is still extremely strong. 1.7 was just ludicrous, so this is a fantastic change. I think a change that's actually going to be way more impactful, though, is the fact that, well, there's now a targeting laser. It's very faint, actually, but this will allow you to see where the Venator is aiming when he's using this ability, very similar to Vindicta's laser. So you have much more counterplay to this now, because you'll be able to avoid the Venator's sight lines and also locate him a bit easier, so you can potentially stun him or otherwise incapacitate him. I think this is a great change, because when you have an ability like this that's hit scan and just does a ton of burst damage, you need to offer the enemies appropriate counterplay, and revealing where Venator's sightline is definitely one of the best ways of going about that. Finally, they reduced the damage component of the Tier 2 upgrade from 150 bonus damage down to just 65. Ouch! But, once again, very necessary, because it's true damage. It cannot be mitigated in any way, shape, or form. So, you can't have that value be too high, otherwise it just feels awful to play against. So overall, I'm very happy with these Venator changes. They buffed up other aspects of his kit, nerfed the most annoying part, and now, hopefully he'll be in a really good place. But before we end the video, we do have a couple of general changes to discuss, and the first one actually pertains to Venator. So Quicksilver Reload and Mercurial Magnum were not applying their spirit damage to abilities that didn't already do spirit damage, meaning that you didn't get the damage component of these on abilities like Consecrating Grenade or Gut Shot, but that has been fixed. So now, as you can see, I just did 71 damage from my Mercurial Magnum there on the grenade. That is working as intended. The rest of the changes relate to Deadlock's game modes and map, starting off with the blue zip line. This apparently was very buggy, because you're zipping over the patron's head now, and it's all just kind of awkward trying to get up on this thing from the ground, so they have improved the attach speed and fixed a bunch of random bugs that came about because of that. And they also updated how troopers work when you destroy the enemy's shrines. Previously, if you destroyed both of the enemy team's shrines, then all of the troopers would be buffed. Simple as that. But now, well, it's a bit more forgiving, because you can destroy just one shrine, and the troopers on that respective lane will be buffed. So if I were to come into the Archmother's base here and destroy the leftmost shrine, then the minions on the yellow lane here would be enhanced. If I destroy the one on the right, then the minions on the green lane would be enhanced, and once you finally destroy both shrines, that's when the blue lane minions will be enhanced, which is a very sensible change. And furthermore, they reduce the shrine's HP by 10%, which, I mean, these things are ridiculously tanky, so I can appreciate that. Last but not least, we have two small changes to Street Brawl. There is now a global time slow when the round ends to prevent, or at least mitigate, kills happening after the round is over. And also, you can move around in the spawn area after the buying phase ends, which is a nice quality of life change for people who like to fidget and jump around. But anyways, that's gonna do it for this video, so let me know what you think about these changes in the comments section down below. Do you think Valve is doing a good job with balancing the new heroes, or do you disagree with the direction that they're taking the game in? I would love to hear all of your thoughts down below, and if you found this video to be helpful, of course make sure to drop a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos from me. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.